All right, so in this video, I am going to set up the toolpaths for this template. Now, this is the same template that, in fact, if you can't see it on the bottom, but I have tabs set up so I can jump back and forth. So I'm jumping back over to the design software where I can see the template itself, which is 5.5 by 11. There it's 2D, and then Vcarve it's going to be 2D. But if you notice the color coding, and those help me, they remind me of what it is that I want to do in Vcarve to basically set up those toolpaths. So going into Vcarve, I'm just going to start somewhere. I don't know that it makes too much of a difference where, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of the 1/4 inch slots, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down while I do the rest of these. I'm going to click on there. Again, the shift key is being held down. I click there, I click there, I click there, and then this is the same. It's going to be the same depth and everything. All the settings are going to be the same, and the same down here. These are all 1/4 inch wide slots where we're going to put a piece of 1/4 inch MDF in the template to help guide it. So now I have all those selected. I'm going over to my toolpaths. I'm going to select the pocket toolpath, and then those are all going to be at a depth of 0.5. So 0.5, I got to get rid of that extra period in there. Okay, 0.5. And then this is PVC. So the default would have been that I set up for 4 passes, but because it's PVC, I can knock down one of those passes. I can reduce it. So they're going to be 0.16 approximately per pass instead of the 0.125 or something like that. And then I like to name those. I guess you don't have to. You could leave this as pocket 1, pocket 2, whatever the default. But I like being able to go back to it later. So then I'm going to just type in 1/4 inch slots for guides. And then I mention at 0.5. I mention, again, this is not a setting, it's just mentioning and reminding me that I have it set at 0.5 depth. I hit calculate. Now it jumps over to that. I don't go and I don't do the preview visible toolpath right away. I just wait until later. Instead, I go back to this 2D screen, which after the first time it always kind of reduces it quite a bit. So if you just go up to the whatever that one is there, the zoom, I basically select that. Now the other thing is I don't want to be bothered by some of these settings that are already in place on that first setting of the toolpath. So I just go turn that one off. Right down here I just unclick it. I don't delete it, I just unclick it. So now I have basically a clean screen again. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to close that, is pick the next section that I want to do. Let's go ahead and do these circles. Now these are peeps, so these are going to go full through. And again, if I look at the drawing here, there's a red here, a red here, a red here, red here, and then I've got one down here. These are peeps. Those are allowing us to see the pencil marks on the board after this whole thing is ready to use. So I'm going to select on that one, again holding the shift key down. I'm just selecting the outer edge. I'm not going to select that one, that's for something else. And I do that one, and then I've got one right here as well. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and I want those to go full through. So I'm selecting the pocket toolpath. Those I'm going to set at 0.8, and again I'm going to edit my default was for 6 passes. I know I'm comfortable on PVC at even 4 passes on those. I'm good with that. Done enough of them to know that I'm comfortable. There's no knots or anything in PVC, so we're good to go. Now, and those I'm going to call the peeps at 0.8. Enter, or calculate rather. It warns me that I'm going through the board and then some, which is fine. So you're going to see this and hear this come up all the time. I'm going to say okay, because there's a spoil board underneath. I'm not concerned about that, and I do want to make sure that I go completely through. All right, the next one, let's just take the router area, which is right there. Now that one I want to go full through, and I could use tabs on those. I could set it up that way, but it doesn't work that well. So I'm going to go ahead and shift click. So I have those 3 big areas. Again, I could go to this profile toolpath and then create tabs down here, but to be honest with you, it's not worth it. It just, there's so little difference in the time that it takes to do it. If it were a big monster, then yes, I would do the tabs and do that method. But the other problem I have with that is that a router, or the bushing, the guide bushing on the router, is going to bump up against that. So when I remove those tabs later manually, they tend to have a little bump, either an inward bump or an outward bump, and then of course the router bushing follows that. And then once you get into here, it gets really difficult to work with tabs. So I just go ahead and say, instead of trying to do that, I'm going to say close that, and I'm going to go to the standard pocket toolpath, and then I'm just going to make them. And those are going to be at 0.8. Again, the passes, it defaulted to 6, and I'm going to change that to 5. And then I'm going to call those router pockets, I guess, at 0.8, and then say calculate. Again, it's warning me, which is fine. I'm going to go up back to my 2D view and pick the next one. So this one right here on the outer is a dust port, and you'll see how that shows up. And so what I want to do with that one is really, it's 3/16 from here to there. It's 3/16, and again, this is a 1/4 inch bit, right? So if I just use this one, which is the 2D profile toolpath, and I want to go down 0.5, which is fine. In fact, I'm going to go down 3/8, and again, 3/8 point 375. I'm going on that, and if I want to, again, I can go back over to my drawing. You can see I've got yellow there, which kind of reminds me, just, I happen to know that reminds me to do 3/8. So then I've got that. Let's see where we're at here. I've got 0.375. It defaulted to 4 passes, but again, it's only 3/16, and I have a 1/4 inch bit, and the meat of everything is taken out already before it even gets there, so I can definitely drop that to 3. I could probably use 2, but I'll just go with 3. I don't need any tabs on that, and because there's nothing remaining. And this one I'm going to call the dust rim, and that's at 0.375, and then calculate. All right, again, it jumps over to that, so I'm coming back to this. So I've got all these, I've got this, I've got all that, I have all these. So if I'm going to catch this one last, because that one, it kind of reminds me that the system is almost all done. Let's see what I have. I have these 5 holes down here. And again, to get a little more accuracy, I can zoom in on those 5 holes. So now I'm going to hold the shift key, click, 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 click. The shift key has been held down through all of that, and then those I want to go full through, and so I'm going to use the pocket toolpath. I'm going to go at 0.8, and those, because they're 1/4 inch holes and I'm using a 1/4 inch bit, there's no turning or sideways movement on that bit. It's just going basically straight down. So I could probably go with 1 pass, especially on PVC, but I'm going to stick with 2. I would maybe go more passes if it were plywood or wood. So I'm going to say to that, and then again, I'm going to name that, and I'm going to call those 5 holes for dimples at 0.8. Calculate. Again, it warns me. Now the last one that I've got, and I can't see it, well, I can just kind of see it here, but I'm going to go up to view, zoom to drawing. Now I see the whole thing again. Now I'm going to resume this one right here. This one is just strictly for a mark that at the halfway point, so that I can take this template, put it under the miter saw, and cut it in half, and not even have to measure to do that. So that one, I'm only going to go down 0.125. It's just a very, very shallow mark. It already sets up 1 pass. That's it. And then I'm going to call this the cutoff, cut in half mark at 0.125, and say calculate. And then let's just see where I'm at. So now I do want to go to the 3D view, and I'm going to click on everything there. Just for safety's sake, I'm unclicking everything to make sure nothing's sitting out there, and for safety's sake, I'll say reset preview. Now that I've done that, I can click on this one right here, which basically highlights everything. And then I can now click on preview visible toolpaths. I'm going to click on that, and it's gone. That automatically did that. So I'm just going to take a moment personally, and I'm going to look at everything on here to make sure I've got everything covered. So in doing that, I can go back over to my other drawing, and I see that I have a peephole here, but then when I look at here, I don't see it. Okay, so I think I might have missed that one, and so I'm going to go back to View, Zoom to Drawing, and then I want to click on that one. This is why it's handy to label them. I've got the peeps, so if I click on peeps, it highlights everything that I told it to do. It's this one, and this one, and this one, but look at it's not highlighted. Okay, so I can fix that easily by just saying edit. Now while I'm in that mode, I can hold the shift key down, click on that, and then now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them selected. Now I'm going to say calculate. It's going to warn me, say yes. Now I want to go back, and this is where I am going to do a reset for sure. So first of all, I'm going to unclick everything, but you can see everything is still there. I hit the reset preview, so there's a blank screen. Now I click on the toolpaths to select them all again, and let's just rerun that preview visible toolpaths. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peeps going all the way through. This is not a peep, this is that cutoff. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 1/4 inch guides. Those are the 1/4 inch guides. I have a couple of 1/4 inch guides down here, and then visually again I'm just going back to the drawing. I look at, do I have that inner and do I have the outer rim? I have the inner and then I have the outer rim. You can see that's going to go only a 1/2 inch deep. Do I have the 5 up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I have 8 of the green things? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have those. Do I have I already covered the peeps. I've got this. Do I have the 5 holes down here for punching? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm good to go. Now I'm just going to run one more test on this. Again, I just want to make sure that everything is working properly. So I'm going to reset the preview, hit Toolpaths, preview visible toolpaths, and there we're good to go. Okay, so now all I need to do is re-click basically on this so that all of those are selected. I can say close, and then I'm going to use this icon here to save the toolpaths. Again, I got to make sure that all of those are selected. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you leave one undone, and because maybe you don't want to run it for one case, but you don't want to run it for another, and so this comes in pretty handy. But I'm going to save the toolpath. It's going to open up this little window. I have to click on that again. And then I'm going to save it as let me just figure out a file name for it. So I'm going to call it combo, because it's a combination combo, if I can spell that right, C-O-M-B-O template. And then my nomenclature is for, I use the dates. So the year is 22, and then the month is December, which is 12 dash. And then the day is 05. I want to use 05 rather than 5 because I want these to come in order later on if I need to by name. And then I want to have -01, which is basically the first version today. If I had to do one later, it would be 02. If I did another one, it would be 03, etc. Again, that's going to save the tap file. So that, in fact, before I even do that, I'm just going to highlight it so I don't have to rewrite this. Control C to just basically copy those words, letters. I'm going to do a save. So now I have my tap file saved, but I also need to want to save my CRV or CVR file. So I want to do a save as, and then I'm going to just, since I'm in there, I'm just going to do a Control V, which basically reprints that whole thing, and then that'll save the file with the same name. I hit a save. So now I have the file saved on my hard drive for both the CVR or CRV, whatever it is, and then also the the toolpath. So then what I need to do is to grab a thumb drive, which you're not going to be able to see, but I'm going to grab a thumb drive, a blank one, and then I'm going to go over here. So as you can see, I placed a USB in there, and there were some files on it. I don't like to have multiple files on there if I can help it. I don't want those to show up on the screen on the CNC router on the controller. So if they're not using them anymore, I just delete them. Sometimes I'll even reformat the drive, but I now have a blank screen, so now I can go to and find those files that I just saved. And the only one I need is this one here, the combo template. Again, today's date, the year 2022, the 12th month, the 5th day, and this is version number 1, but it's the TAP file, the TAP. And that's the only one I really need, but just out of, I don't know, habit or whatever, I'll hold down the control key and I'll select that one as well. And then I'll select the most recent one of the SketchUp file, just so basically I have backups on all of those in case something happens to this computer. I do tend to email myself the design file, the SketchUp file, and that way I can pull that up on an Android device and I can use it, and plus then that creates a backup in my email system. So I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to go over to the Memorex, which is this folder is empty, it's a blank one. I'm going to right click right there and I'm going to say paste. Okay, so now I have the, again, that dot or SKP file. I have the Vectric, the CRV file for Vcarve, and then I have the TAP file. Again, this is the only one that's going to show up when I go out to the shop. So I can do I've got that now. What you're not going to see is I'm going to go down and I'm going to do an eject on it, and then I'm going to click on eject so that it properly ejects it and I don't have any damage there. Other than that, now from this point forward I need to get out of my pajamas, because everything up until now has been done in my sweats, and then put on my work clothes, and I'm going to grab that USB drive out of the computer. I'm going to walk out to the shop. I'm going to cut a board, PVC in this case. I'm going to run it on the CNC, and then we'll end up with a template when we're all done. So there you go.